Welcome back to Spiro Avenue. Happy to have you. It's been really hot around these parts. Honestly, our pavement is quite scorching lately. I'm very excited to be fully away from the University of Michigan talk. It breaks my heart to see them do well, at least in football. Basketball is another story. And the Michigan State train is still rolling tonight, as a matter of fact. And I got to tell you, I was talking about it earlier tonight with a friend of mine. He's not currently in the building, but my love for New York City. And I'm a big fan of New York City. I love visiting New York City. It's one of my favorite, 5 or 6 places to spend a weekend. And one of our best friends, my wife and I, she is a director in New York City, which is one of the coolest things you could be, probably. And I've come just from my visits to realize I really love the women in New York City, not in that kind of way. I'm a happily married man, but just the personality. In a very platonic sense, I really appreciate the women of New York City. They're smart. They're determined. They're certainly high achieving. You kind of have to be to make it there. And they have, frankly, many admirable qualities, those women in New York City. And I'm proud to say on this night that I have one thing in common with women in New York City. We have both spent many, many years chasing after Ryan Field. And I was
wondering where you were going with that.
I can't say that every woman in New York City has been successful in their conquest.
That is most certainly true.
Maybe around half, but
far less than that.
It took me a long time, but we're here tonight.
Here we are.
The wait is over finally at last. You are here.
How many months and years have you been asking me to be on the show?
Well, it's 2 years.
What's the tally?
It's 2 years and something. I don't have it down.
2 years and change?
Yeah. Well,
it was the least I could do. I mean, I'm home for Christmas for a week. I had to at least stop by.
I appreciate it. I know, you said, how long are we going to do this thing? It's like, okay, I better get them out fast. It's like
No. I didn't know if this was a 3-hour sit down. I was just trying to mentally prepare myself for what was going to be in store.
It's guest driven, man.
Yeah,
so, I mean, you are... Obviously, you're from here. You're a Troy guy originally.
Yeah.
Everyone saw you on Fox Sports Detroit next to Monty and Cleves and on the court at the Palace and all over the place. So you're a home guy. You're a homeboy here. But you have gone to California and now New York City.
Yeah.
So you're in the big time. You're the lead sports anchor for ABC 7 in the Big Apple right now. Is that did I get that title correct?
You nailed it.
I'm a pro. I told you I've been working.
This isn't your first rodeo. I've done this before.
It's like my third.
Yeah.
So you are, I think, as much as your resume is impressive, the fact that you are a distinguished alumnus of Michigan State University is probably the most impressive, or certainly it should be. It is known as the Harvard of journalism schools in the world.
I've heard that.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure.
So it's good to have you, man. Finally, it's great. It feels like such an honor to have Ryan Field here. We have a lot of mutual friends. We talked about a little bit Sue Carter, one of our mentors at Michigan State. L.A. Dickerson, I had her
Love
as
LA.
well.
Yeah.
She's a star. She was the one that really got into the human side of journalism, and I loved L.A. I think our closest mutual friend is probably Jared, the Colossal Chaldean.
Is that his official nickname? I hadn't heard that.
I actually think it's his official name. I think
that should be on a T-shirt if it is.
He's the Colossal Chaldean, a good friend of ours,
Chaldean.
Jared. So, a lot of sort of intersection on the Venn diagram. But
Yes.
first time I've seen you at Piston games and yelled at you, but it's the first time I think we've ever really met. It's good to have you. Big fan of yours. Look,
It means a lot, man. It's great to be here.
I know you're the New York guy. That's like your thing now. You're New York. Everyone that goes to New York doesn't have any time, but you're actually the rare exception where even now with your audience, what it is in New York City, and you comment on, you tweet on the Rangers and the Yankees and the Mets and whatever, you have really kept that connection to Detroit. So I think you're more than qualified to be brought in here to discuss because there's a lot going on, frankly. I mean, really, I didn't know where to start because there's so many places. I wanted to start here. The state of the Detroit Pistons, because this is starting to come up. I don't know if you can, hear this noise with all those tall
I hear the
buildings.
noise. It's a team that's near and dear to my heart, so I pay very close attention to what transpires with that group.
Yeah, and you worked right in there. I mean, you were in I would say
10 years covering the team
the
for
peak
FSD
era, too. That was a fun time.
Yeah.
So,
the first half of it anyway. Second half, not so much.
Yeah, well, that's all right.
I left in 2013, so from 09 to 13 were some pretty
rough.
lean years, to say the least.
Well, and it's been lean since you left, too, up until very recently. I think the approval rating has changed so dramatically in the past couple months. It was in the pits for 10 years.
Yep.
And then everybody, myself included, banging the drum all year last year. It was the most embraced, beloved tank job in the history of the NBA.
No question.
Everybody loved and loves Cade Cunningham. We're all thrilled with that. I don't think that has changed. But there is a little bit of pause. Wait a minute. I didn't think they'd be good, but up until last night, they were 4-24, now 5-24.
Yep.
Dead last in the NBA. They were kind of a trendy pick. I thought it was stupid, but a trendy pick to maybe be in playoff contention. No one thought
they
were
going to
make the
play-in game. There was some talk of that, for sure.
We have departed from that. They are the worst team in the NBA. There's nothing fluky. A lot of these games have been blowouts. Yeah, their over-under was, I think, 24.5.
Which I was betting the over.
A lot of people were.
When I saw that.
And their pace is like 14.
Yeah.
It's been bad. I think we're getting a little bit too insane, though. I'm curious what you think. So this is a few days old now. This is the most updated that's been posted. The odds for the next coach to be fired in the NBA. We pulled this. I'm curious for your thoughts on this, so we'll start here.
Okay.
The next coach to be fired odds. Dwayne Casey, this is right after Luke Walton was fired, by the way. This was the updated odds. Dwayne Casey is the favorite. If you want to bet, this is a source bet online. Dwayne Casey is a 2-1 favorite to be the next coach in the NBA. Fired Frank Vogel of the Lakers 3-1. Then you go down to Stephen Silas in Houston. Mm-hmm. Willie Green 6-1. So, look, I think it's insane to want to fire Dwayne Casey at this point. Even if he was third or fourth on this list, like maybe the fact that he's the odds-on literal favorite to be the next fired, I think is a little crazy. Where do you stand on this?
Well, look, I don't think he should be fired. I think, the team A got younger. I think they've had a lot of the young guys who succeeded last year, a la Sadiq Bey, be in a major shooting slump for the majority of this season. Up until recently, he's kind of turned the corner. Once he started donning the headband, all of a sudden things seemed to start going his way. Coincidence? I think not. And look, the injuries haven't helped. Olynyk, losing him was huge, and obviously having Grant out. You had Cade Cunningham miss all of training camp, so he's going to come in and not be the guy that you thought he would be right out of the chute. But in a way, I think it's a blessing in disguise because you didn't want them to make the playoffs. You wanted them to get another top 5 pick with Blake Griffin's contract coming off the books. So now all of a sudden they've got all this financial flexibility this summer. You're going to have another, at least as it seems right now, a top 3, most likely top 5 pick. And you add that to the young nucleus that I think is only going to get better. You're starting to see signs from Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, all of a sudden in the rookie of the year conversation. I think they're in a great spot. And I think Dwayne Casey, I know a lot of fans are frustrated with his rotations and things like that. But, the expectations for this team were 24 wins from Las Vegas, which pretty much tells you what everybody thought of this team.
Yes.
I think a lot of what's gone wrong is outside of Dwayne Casey's control. I think for this team, I think he's the right temperament to lead this group. I know Troy Weaver likes him. So I do not agree with those odds that you posted on that board.
Well, and those odds are reflective of the attitude of, frankly, a lot of people out there. I mean, I mean, you have a Twitter account. Maybe your followers and the people in your ether are nicer than mine. I think that's probably a safe bet. I have a lot of parasites in mine. But there's a lot of people out there that are saying fire them. I think that's kind of crazy. I mean,
but for what purpose? I mean, the team is still in a rebuilding mode. I mean, if you came in and you expected them to be a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference, wow, and they had 5 wins right now, I mean, come on. I mean, the expectations for this team were nothing. This guy, Dwayne Casey, was brought in to kind of bridge the gap during this rebuild, and then I think eventually he's going to retire in the next couple of years. They're going to bring in a new coach to then take them to the next level, a la Larry Brown taking over for Rick Carlisle, and to get them to the next, to get them over the hump and get them to a championship caliber team at that point. So I think Dwayne Casey has done what he was brought here to do: nurture the young kids and kind of foster a very cohesive locker room. A lot of likable guys on the roster. I was talking to Johnny Kane last night. He said this is the best group of guys individually he's ever been around. Talking about the guys on this team. And, you just talk about the culture that he's instilled there. And I think the best is yet to come. I think people are just a little, pardon the French, butthurt by what happened because there was a lot of hype coming off of last year. But look, it hasn't panned out that way. I do think they're going to finish the second half strong as Killian gets better. Cade Cunningham continues to settle in. You're going to get Jeremy Grant back healthy, assuming he doesn't get traded. Olynyk coming back is going to be a big deal. So I think they're going to finish strong the second half of the season, get a free agent to come in, whether via trade or whatever, another top 5 pick, and then they're going to really take the next step next season.
Yeah, I mean, the valid criticism that I think could be out there, and valid criticism does not equate to, fire him, by the way.
Right.
But the valid criticism that exists that I've heard is, why wasn't Cade Cunningham being more ball dominant? Why isn't the offense flowing through him more than it was? Now we're starting to see them pivot to that, so I think he's getting there. And the other thing was, what's going on with Saddiq Bey? He's been lost for a month. Now, the last 2 games, he's come out firing, and he's looked like last year's peak Saddiq Bey. I think, look, here's where I stand. If they are anywhere in this range, 4-24, 6-26, or whatever in December of next year, then I'm like, okay, something's awry. We have to be farther along. Anything earlier than like 2 months into next year, to me, like near the halfway point's way too soon. Is that a fair sort of
I think that is fair.
That's
given,
a fair line.
Given the fact they're the 3rd youngest team in the NBA, given all the other obstacles they've had to overcome, I think that is a very fair assessment at this point.
And
I think Troy Weaver would agree with you as well.
Oh, yeah,
I would go out on a limb and say that.
Yeah, I say you go out on a limb. I think you're talking to Troy.
You're talking. I am not talking.
I know for a fact he loves Dwayne Casey. You're talking to somebody.
This is just based on what I've heard and read and everything.
Right. I know you got a lot of contacts, Ryan. So here's what I would argue why there's some maybe, apprehension with going forward with Casey, even though I don't agree with it. I think he's the right guy for right now. The stakes, frankly, are quite a bit higher because, look, you have some
higher when? Right now they're higher?
Well, no. In the next, like from now to the next 3 years, the stakes are higher because then
I don't think he's going to be here in 3 years. I think he's going to retire. But
this is a pivotal year in that process, though. I look at it as a whole. I don't look at them as 4 individual years. I look at these next couple years, the next 3-4 years, as a whole pie. And look, here's what I'm getting at. When Lawrence Frank was here, I mean, look. There's some wackos out there. I like to think of myself as pretty sane. I didn't give a fuck if Lawrence Frank squandered the career of Charlie Villanueva. It didn't matter. Who cares? I didn't care that the corpse of Ben Gordon was maybe not getting every drop squeezed out of him by Lawrence Frank or Mo Cheeks. I just didn't care. Where we get into the Pistons now, I do care about Cade Cunningham's development. I think Isaiah Stewart, I think Saddiq Bey are real guys, not stars, but real guys on a real team. And the pick that's forthcoming next year, presumably, and we'll get into that in a minute, top 3, top 4, it's a strong draft at the top. I think that's part of some of the concern and hyper awareness of this stuff where, look, you have a window here where if this thing is run poorly for the next 2-3 years, you alienate. You look at Zion Williamson in New Orleans. Right. The guy's begging to get out already. Like, I think that's where some of this anxiety comes from.
Yeah. And, if the team was performing better right now with some of the players that we talked about, and maybe if the injuries hadn't occurred, maybe they would have 5, 6, 7 more wins and people would feel a little bit better about the situation. I would feel more concerned if there was a culture problem, if players were going against the coach, they didn't like what he was bringing to the table, they didn't like his message, but there's none of that going on. There's no infighting. You got a young team that's learning how to win. They're growing together. I think Casey is nurturing these young guys, and I think they're going to be just fine. I think if we're, to your point, 2-3 years down the road and we're still talking about this, completely different, even to your point, halfway through next season. But I think for right now, people are upset, and rightfully so, because they liked what they saw last year. They thought they were going to take another step this year. It hasn't happened. But so what? I think they're going to be better off in the long run because of it. So
100% agree. I love that they're dead last.
Yes.
It's for the record.
And they're still fun to watch. I mean, especially lately. I know they had a few blowouts earlier, but they're starting to look more like the team we saw last year. A lot of competitive losses. They've had a lot of games where they've been up double digits in the fourth quarter and blown it. Another case of youth being served. So I think ultimately the franchise is in a good position. And, in today's day and age, everybody wants things to happen overnight. And it's just not going to work out that way. You
made the point about that it's not mutiny or anything like that. The coach's relationship with the players is still good, and that's important. You were there for the Rip Hamilton mutiny. What year was that?
Yeah, with Custer.
With John Custer.
Yeah.
It was like 11 or something?
Yeah, I want to say it was 11.
Right in there.
And when they had a fist bump at practice, we had a huge deal. We made a huge deal about it. Like there was video of it. Like that was supposedly them making amends. They had a little fist bump as Rip walked by him in practice. And those years were just a mess all the way around. And Kuster was in over his head, great guy, but he was kind of dealt a bad hand with the roster and everything else. So it was tough circumstances all the way around. And I think they wanted Rip to come off the bench, I think is what what led to that. Boy, it's funny because I haven't thought about those days in a long time, and there wasn't a lot to remember that was good from that part of Pistons basketball, that era of it. But yeah, man, it was definitely when that went down with the fist bump and everything, it was a huge deal. And looking back at it now, it's just silly.
Rip got mad ever since he signed his extension, and then they traded Chauncey for Iverson. That was when sort of the spark that he resented, and it was never the same after that.
Yep.
I've always said,
funny story, by the way. I was in the elevator. This is a true story.
I'm ready.
So I'm in Charlotte, and back then we had Eli Zared and I both doing the sidelines. So remember the games used to be on Channel 50?
Yep.
And half the games were on 50 and half the games were on FSD. So I think it was the first year that FSD had all the games. So they brought in Eli from the Channel 50 coverage per the Pistons, and they had me there already from FSD. So we had 2 sideline reporters, which in today's day and age is unheard of. So it was me, Eli, George, and Greg. And I think it was the 4th game of the season. We're in Charlotte. And Eli says to me after shoot around, and he says, man, what are we going to talk about with this team? He's like, it's been the same group for the last 6 years. There's no storylines. I think they started 4-0 out of the season, so it might have been the 5th game, or 3-0, and it was the 4th game. And, they had come off the tough Eastern Conference Finals loss against the Celtics the year before. You still kind of felt maybe their run was maybe coming to an end, but they were still kind of one of the best teams in the East. And he's like, what are we going to talk about? And then next thing you know, everybody's phones start going off that they had traded Chauncey for Allen Iverson. And it was literally not 2 minutes after Eli was bitching about how there was nothing to talk about with this team and what are we going to talk about and whatever. So we go back to the hotel, and there was an article written about this. I think it was on ESPN.com, how Rip and Tayshaun had gone to Chauncey's room at the hotel afterwards, after the shoot-around. And I don't think Chauncey was at shoot-around, but nobody knew why. And I think looking back at it, you're like, well, now we know what happened. And it was just me, Rip, and Tayshaun in the elevator at the team hotel.
Oh, shit.
And they were just yelling back and forth to each other and just kind of like, this is BS, just very upset, very frustrated. And that ended up being like the talking point of this ESPN piece that came out. But I was the one that was in the elevator with those two as they got the news. And deservedly so, they had every right to be upset. I mean, it was, it kind of caught everybody by surprise. And that was really a turning point in the franchise the day that whole thing went down. Was just, it was the end of an era. You know what I mean? It was, in that sense, it was a turning point in the franchise. It certainly didn't pan out the way that they wanted it to. They got Iverson about 3 years too late, in my opinion, maybe 5.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that day. That was one of my craziest days in the 10 years covering the team. The day that trade went down, and the fact that they traded McDyess too, but then they ended up getting McDyess back. Like that was part of like a wink part of the deal. Like they were going to waive McDyess and he was going to come back, and now that's not allowed anymore. I don't think by the NBA. They kind of have a new rule that you can't trade a guy and then waive him and then bring him back. But just a crazy moment in the history of the Pistons, and just the way the whole thing went down, and everybody was just so upset. And if Joe D could do that one over and the Darko one over, I'm sure he would do him over again tomorrow. There's no question about it.
Well, the Darko one for sure. The Billups thing, look, I think that's one of the more overstated, worst trades in Detroit sports history. It was harmless. The team was done. The
team wasn't done.
Okay,
I mean, they finished with the best record in the Eastern, or second best record in the Eastern Conference the year before that.
That team was done. In terms of titles, I'm not saying they were done. They were not going to make the playoffs. They were done as a legitimate contender.
Their run was probably over, yeah.
It was 100% over. So I understand what Dumars was doing, where, look, this has gotten stale. We've hit the ceiling. We can't get past where we've been the last, 3 years in a row. They got bounced in that round, 2 or 3, whatever it was. We have to do something. Iverson, he was still pretty good the year before. I mean, really, I agree with you. 3 years too late. Like he started the decline, but it was like a huge drop off from his last year in Denver to his year with Detroit.
Right.
Look, I'm not saying, it was a brilliant trade that went awry. I get what he was doing though. And to me, it's titles or bust in sports, like in a big picture. They won 0 titles either way, in my opinion. If they keep Billups, it didn't matter. But that's interesting though. So you're on the elevator with Tayshaun.
They were on their way to Chauncey's room.
They were tight, man. That whole
whole group, and they were so mad at Joe because they were all caught off guard by him.
They never got that core back. Like it was just, it never did feel the same. I think
it never felt the same. I mean, Chauncey was the head of the snake. You know what I mean? He was the guy. And I remember him talking about how, all he did for the organization, he gets traded, and the next day they're welcoming Allen Iverson in, and he's holding up Chauncey's jersey, the number 1. And now Iverson's wearing it. Like, come on, bro.
That's like just rub that salt.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as bad as it gets.
What was that like when he got there, when Allen Iverson got there? Like, did you have interactions with him?
Yeah, I mean, he was Allen Iverson. I mean, there was a lot of gambling stories that are definitely off the record as part of covering the team, but and obviously something that he had a problem with for a lot of years. Definitely a different type of personality than Chauncey was. I didn't like it from the beginning when they traded, especially because Chauncey was such a fan favorite. I mean, everybody loved Iverson too, like as a whole, but I'm talking about Detroit fan. So when he came in, it didn't seem like a good fit from the jump. Yeah. And it ended up being the case. And a lot of that was the fact that he was well past his prime. I don't blame Joe for wanting to mix it up a little bit. I don't know if that was the way that I would have gone to mix it up, but hindsight is 2020.
I don't know if you're a Bill Simmons guy, Ryan, but the Book of Basketball, one of the more entertaining sports books ever written by Bill Simmons, he described, and this is a paraphrase, but I remember pretty close. He described Allen Iverson as the most beloved player by other players in the NBA. That everyone he talked to in the league that were still in the league, coaches, players, they had so much respect for this guy, how hard he played and how much he squeezed out of that 5'9" frame of his. I'm curious. I know they loved Chauncey. Was there any reverence at all for Iverson walking through the doors at the Palace, or was it pure that you sensed?
Reverence from who?
The players. Was there any bit of not deference, but just like, look, we're mad about Chauncey, but shit, this is Allen Iverson. He was a beloved, iconic figure, as you said, even on the global scale.
I mean, I think once the sting of the trade wore off, I mean, those guys definitely welcomed him. I mean, there wasn't any sort of bad blood between Iverson and Rip and any of those guys. I mean, I guess when they were talking about bringing Rip off the bench when starting Iverson in that whole mess, I guess there was a little bit of that. But yeah, I never saw any sort of I think they were more mad at the front office than they were at Allen Iverson. I mean, he didn't have anything to do with the trade. He was brought in, and to your point, this was a player that a lot of those guys, Tayshaun's and the Rip, they grew up idolizing. You know what I mean? Allen Iverson is one of the greatest players of all time. So I think they welcomed him with open arms, despite the fact that they were mad at the front office. But yeah, I mean, just overall, I mean, it was nice to have like a breath of fresh air, something new to talk about. But I don't think anybody thought that they were going to come in and, with Iverson, take the next step. I don't think anybody thought that was realistic.
It's funny because we talked about our mutual mentor, one of our mutual mentors, L.A. Dickerson. I was a student at Michigan State still when the Iverson trade went down, and I was with.
Thanks for aging me, by the way. Appreciate that.
I don't want to get into that.
You're like, I was a freshman in 2009.
You're 14 years old, sir. I don't want to talk about things that make me feel.
It was actually 2008 when the trade went down. 08, 09.
I'm a self-conscious guy. It was my first semester up at Michigan State, though, and I was actually talking to L.A. Dickerson.
Appreciate it.
And I come out of that conversation with like 100 text messages about it, and that was back. Text messages were fresh back in 08, but it's just funny, that connection. You were on the elevator. I was with L.A. Dickerson, who we both know. When I found out, look, I thought it was defensible. I thought they were fucked either way. It didn't matter. So it's like, whatever.
Why not roll the dice?
That was, that's where I stood on that. So
sell some tickets. Makes sense.
Yeah, whatever. It was harmless. Like they were done anyway. It just, it expedited their downfall.
Yes.
It was what they did in the next 5 years where, why are we paying A+ money to C+ players like Villanueva, like Gordon.
Right.
I mean, that's where you kind of the shit.
Which was the following offseason, by the way.
Yeah. They were like, oh, like, what are you doing? Like Villanueva, and it's one of those where
the Ben Gordon one.
Gordon was defensible because he was hot. He
was good with the Bulls, especially in the series against the Celtics.
Yeah, it was like 25 points a game.
He was really good.
Defensible. Villanueva indefensible, even when it happened. Let's get back to 2021 and 22 in the season we're in. Cade Cunningham, I'm sure you caught wind of what Dave Bing said, that we don't have the guy you can build around. Maybe you didn't. Dave Bing said on the air, this, we got a good player, but we need a real point guard, which was an interesting comment. Here's where I stand on Cade Cunningham. I'm curious where you land on this. I look at him. You look what he's done now. He's 16, 6-5 as a just turned 20-year-old. He came in at 19. December, he's up to 19 points a game, 19, 6-5. Again, just turned 20. I view him as not yet, but a top 15, 18 type player. I don't view him as LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. I view him sort of as that second tier, where more of like an A-. Good enough to maybe be the best player on a champion, but borderline. Is that sort of a fair assessment for Cade Cunningham? Do you think I'm underselling him, overselling him, or kind of about right in that 15
What month are
range?
we in? December?
December.
I mean, we're 2 months into his NBA career. I mean, we're making some pretty grand proclamations being 2 months into his NBA career.
You're like David Klein from the Spartan Hoops.
I'm just being real with you here. I mean,
I'm asking you to.
I think his ceiling could he be like a Grant Hill type player, maybe without all the crazy hops? For sure, I think he could be. Could he be putting up 25 a night? I don't think there's any question about that.
I love him. I think he's great. I do not think he's transcendent. I think he's an A-. But I think that they can be fine with an A-. I think they have to pair.
When you have Kevin Durant and all these guys singing his praises and talking about how much game he has and stuff like that, when you're getting that kind of love from the best of the NBA, I think that says it all. And I think the thing that I like best about him is his demeanor. And Steve Kerr was saying something about it. I saw a few other coaches saying about it, how the game never speeds up for him. He just goes at his own pace. And for a kid who, to your point, just turned 20 years old and can slow the game down, I think is pretty impressive. And I think he's only going to get better. I think not having training camp obviously hurt him, so he's kind of learning the ropes in regular season action, which is not easy to do as a rookie, especially one that maybe isn't as explosive as a Jalen Green type player. But I think the Pistons, if they could redo the draft, I think they'd take him again, number one.
100%. I loved when he played Jalen Green. I mean, we saw in the exhibition season too. Jalen Green's trying to get in his head, running up and down the court, barking in his ear. And Cunningham just does not give two hoots in hell. He just does not care, doesn't react, has no sign of being affected by it. It was, if anything, better, but didn't seem to be even motivated by it. It was just whatever. And they asked him after the game, and he said something to the effect of, that's more theatrics. Like I'm just here to play basketball kind of thing. I think that's the kind of guy where, look, if you're in Game 7, Eastern Conference Finals, NBA Finals, whatever, he's got the ball. Look, the best player can have ice in the veins and miss a shot. But if he screws up or misses the shot, it's not because he's scared.
Nope.
He's not scared. Yep. He might miss. He might not make the play, but he's got the talent to make the play, and he's got the mentality.
And I really think that's what made him the number one pick over Jalen. I think the front office just loved his demeanor. I think they loved his character. And then when Jalen Green was saying all that crap about Detroit afterwards, it's just like, okay, now we see why he wasn't the number one pick. Because Cade Cunningham, if he went number 2, wouldn't be trashing Detroit the same way Jalen Green was trashing Detroit, right? So I think that's why, just another reason why he went number 1. And I think once the team gets better and Detroit gets more fanfare, look, this kid could win Rookie of the Year. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, especially I think he's going to get better each month. You already talked about the numbers going up from November to December. So he wins Rookie of the Year, let's just say. The team takes another step next year. I think he's going to be the most popular athlete in Detroit.
He's going to be way up there. Already in December, it's like 19.5, 6-5. I think he's like 47% from the field. So it's efficient. It's not like he's taking 100 shots. Like, he's got an efficient, balanced, strong game. Right. He's not an ace defensively, but he's well above average.
Yep.
And again, he's played most of this year at 19, now 20. It's like this guy, I think, is a stud. Going forward, this is a huge piece coming in next summer, and we're going to see that. This is going to be, they got Cade.
Yep.
Cade, whether you think he's a home run or a triple, whatever, either way, big. It was a good hit. It was a big one to get him. The next one is huge. They have a big one coming. Now, we pulled the lottery odds for what they are right now as of this broadcast. Pistons are in that sort of three-way tie. Now, they have the worst record, which is good. They have a little room to even gain ground and still maintain the same odds. So it's Detroit, Orlando, and Oklahoma City all have a 14% chance to get the first overall pick and 52.1.
So worst case, they're picking fourth in that scenario, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, if it ended right now, they're picking fourth. And by the way, there's 3 or 4 really good prospects as we stand right now. 3 in particular, but even 4 and 5-ish are looking.
Can you imagine
good.
If they got lucky and won the lottery the second year in a row?
Look, that may be asking a lot, and it is, frankly. But in this draft, look, I'd love number 1. I want number 1. They get 2 or 3. Huge win, because I think there's 3 stars in this draft. And that gets us to our next point. This is the current top 3 prospects. We went to 4 different sites, ESPN, NBA Draft Net. They all have the same top 3. Now, different order, but same top 3 that I found. So, here's the rundown. Chet Holmgren is the center from Gonzaga. He's 7 feet tall, 195, which I don't even know if he really weighs 195. But, big, skinny center, but hell of a player, called the unicorn already. I call him Poncheros, but Paolo Banchero from Duke, 6'10", 250, hell of a player. Jabari Smith is getting a lot of the buzz recently out of Auburn for being the potential first overall pick. He's sort of the Twitter favorite in the last 10 days.
Right.
6'10", 220. You look at the top 3 prospects that we have in front of you. 7 feet, 6'10", 6'10". This is perfection. The Pistons have their lead guard right now. He's 6'7". They listed at 6'8". 6'6", 6'7". They got the lead guard.
They do.
The hole on this roster is a highly skilled big man. There's 3 of them right there.
Yep.
The Pistons could actually get kind of hot, gain ground on a couple of teams, and still maintain the same odds. If they get into that top 3, and you're going into next year with, let's say, Banchero and Cade Cunningham, and
I like it.
Stewart and Bay. This team, I think, is 2 years from then, maybe 2.5, 3 years from now, from being legitimately dangerous to where I can say, maybe they don't win the title, but they could be in Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals, down 4 with 5 minutes left. I mean, is that sort of fair? Am I blowing smoke? I think they're this close. They're 1 draft pick away of one of those 3 guys from being there.
Remember when I said a few minutes ago that the franchise is in great position going forward?
Yes.
That this is all part of that. I think, to your point, they would be about 2 years away from being serious contenders. It depends a lot, too, what they do with that cap space this summer. If they make a trade. I know the free agent class isn't great until the following year. Do they hold the money and then wait until the next summer? Look, man, you can turn the corner pretty quick in the NBA. You've only got 12 guys on the roster, so of the main roster. So it's not like you're out of the realm of possibility. You add 3 new guys. You got a quarter of your team is new, and all of a sudden you're ready to take another step. So I think they could turn this around pretty quick. And that's why I think the important part of this season and what you should look for the rest of this year is just the development of the Bays, the Stewarts, the Killian Hayes, the Cunningham. You want to continue to see progress from these guys. That falls on the shoulders of Dwayne Casey. Not so much the wins and losses. You see these guys getting better, and then it puts the Pistons in position with the new draft pick, with some free agent cash to take another step next year.
Yeah, so. I've heard you were a nice guy, Ryan. You're nicer than I thought. It's extremely charitable of you to throw Killian Hayes in the mix of that. Killian Hayes
is his improvement not important to the team?
Well, in theory, but
there's no in theory about it. His improvement is very important.
It's not going to happen though. The guy can't play.
I was at the game last night. He looked pretty good.
He can't play.
Knocked down a clutch 3. Shot it with confidence.
Killian Hayes can't play.
I disagree with you.
I disagree with you. Play.
What was the stat that just came out? Him and Cade Cunningham were the first pair of rookie teammates ever or something to have 10 assists each in one game.
Okay, you could have
the kid is also a very good defender. So we'll see, dude. I mean, his offensive game may never be what everybody wants it to be. I thought they should have taken Tyrese Halliburton.
I liked Killian, but
I thought, and I've argued with my pal Vinny Goodwill about this. Why, if you're drafting that high like they were with Killian, why roll the dice when you have a guy like Halliburton who you already knew could play at the NBA level? Like, to me, I take the safe pick right there, where they rolled the dice on Killian, and now you're sitting here regretting it. Halliburton's putting up great numbers for the Kings. So I thought that's where that was the direction they should have went. So now they've got the Killian project, but I do think the kid's gotten better, and I think he'll continue to get better. I think a lot of it's between the years, and hopefully we'll see him kind of blossom here a little bit. Even though you're being very doubtful about that process, I think it's going to happen.
I need something to base it on. I'm sorry. It's not my fault.
He's shown flashes. They're few and far between. I will give you that. But he has shown flash.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, we disagree on Killian. I defended him all offseason. I said,
and this was the guy that you wanted. I wanted Tyrese Halliburton.
You win. And by the way, I'm on the opposite end of you. Even though you won this round, in the position the Pistons were in, I would argue you're better off taking the bigger swing because your roster sucks. What is it?
Yeah, but again, but now to your point, you think Killian Hayes can't play. So now you took a swing and you, in your opinion, wasted a top 10 pick where you could have had a guy who's a solid to good contributor in Halliburton already ready to play and help, take your roster to another level. Maybe he's not going to be a superstar, but I think already he's a better player than Killian Hayes. So to me, you take the safe pick when you're drafting right there.
I mean, you would have been right in this situation. As a general principle, though, it can go either way. I mean, the Bucks taking Giannis when they did at 15,
but when you get safer, but it was like when the Pistons took Doumbouya. What was that at 14 or 13 when they took Sekou?
Yeah, it's right in there.
I think you can roll the dice a little bit more there. I think when you're picking in the top 10, I think you take the sure thing all day, every day.
Well, they wouldn't give us Halliburton for Killian, so you win that round for sure. I was, if anyone pulled my tape all offseason, everyone burying Killian Hayes. This is crazy. He had a hip injury.
And now you're burying him.
Now, yeah.
So we're going to save this tape. We're going to save this tape.
Yeah.
For when he takes another step next year, I'm going to come back and make a guest cameo, and we're going to roll this back. We're going to roll the tape back, right. And then we can see what's what.
Look, I hope I'm wrong, just like I hope I'm wrong about Dan Campbell. We'll get to that, but whatever. Killian Hayes aside, if you get that one of those top 3 picks, I think all 3 are stars. I mean, whether they're an A-, an A, or an A+, I don't think there's any Bs on that board that we had. I think all those guys are multi-time All-Stars. That's the consensus. You pair one of those 3 with Cade Cunningham, Stewart, Bay, all that cap space. This is one of the best 2 or 3 teams, not next year, but by the second year of the new guy, year 3 of Cade.
In theory, you are correct.
They are in incredible position. And you said, and again, you mentioned the cap space. I hope they don't spend any of it in a meaningful way this offseason.
I don't think they will.
Target that big class. Just like your New York Knicks team, they're in New York. You guys always think, oh, don't worry, guys, everything will be fine. We'll get Durant next year. Oh, we'll get LeBron.
Well, Durant did go to New York. He just went to Brooklyn.
Yeah, went to the wrong
not
one.
Manhattan.
The Knicks, that's the oldest bit ever. The Knicks fans being like, oh, whatever, bro. Like, just wait till next offseason when all these guys come here. And it just never happens. I just think this team is, look, don't fuck it up. Don't go 15-12 down the stretch and blow it and end up picking 6th, because then you're back into the, do we take the safe Halliburton type?
Well, you saw how they tanked to perfection last year. So I think if they're getting close to doing that this time around, they will pull some guys, sit them on the bench, rest days. Well, yeah. I think you'll see a lot of that the same way it unfolded last year.
That was like Mozart, that tank last year.
That's why they were rewarded with the number 1 pick. The lottery gods rewarded them for the way that they perfected that tank.
Detroit was due. We got kicked in the balls constantly.
Too many times.
The Red Wings, the Pistons.
Yeah, too many times.
It was terrible. So, all right, let's transition to this. I'm done with the Pistons. I still like
that was a lot more Pistons talk than I expected, if I'm being honest.
I like the Pistons.
That was about 40 minutes of Pistons talk.
I don't think we're quite at 40. I like what the Pistons are doing. Let's move to the Lions, who I don't like what they're doing. So Dan Campbell, big win over Arizona, I guess, for the program. Even I said begrudgingly, shit, for what he's trying to build, that was a big win. The season's lost, but for big picture, he needed that. The win against Minnesota, the Vikings handed him the game. It was a stupid play, kind of a fluke. Nothing fluky about the Arizona win. So we'll play a little clip of Dan Campbell in the locker room after that game, and then we'll get into it.
Welcome to Detroit. Man, I tell you what, we did everything we said we needed to do to that team. We did everything. And I tell you what, defense, you took it personal. It's 3 and out, man. You guys are making them have to punt. We turned the ball over offensively, right? And then we defensively, a mighty 2-4. I tell you what, offensively, man, we came after them early, man. We said we're going to be aggressive. We took some shots. And we made them. You guys are a tough, gritty group, man. You're a tough, gritty group. You always have been. And now you're seeing the dividends. Man, look, a team gets one out, two out. We got multiple guys out, and multiple guys stepped up, and that's what we're capable of.
Hell yeah.
Look, I mean, I'm called an asshole, and perhaps fairly. He's a likable motherfucker. He's a likable.
No question. Guy. He's the Big Lebowski.
I would love to just hang out with that guy. So, you
can see why his players love him, right?
Yeah.
You see that. You got his hat all cockeyed, looking like Fernando Rodney, but even higher up on his head.
That's right.
Look, he's a very likable guy, and I think we knew that from the opening press conference. That's why Lions fans were so excited, because this guy was so cool. You know, he just kind of had that guy you want to have a beer with, talking the talk, the biting the kneecaps, all that stuff. Obviously, that part of it we're cool with. It's the in-game decision-making, especially with him play calling and some of the stuff that we've seen, not so much Sunday, but in previous weeks, that leave people going, okay, what's the ceiling here with Dan Campbell as head coach? Now, could he be learning along the way? For sure. And is this the right roster to do it with? For sure, because they're not expected to do anything. And you hope he's going to get better. Yesterday was kind of, I think, what we wanted to see. Like, if you had said before the game, like, what are the Lions going to look like next year or the year after? I think we saw that yesterday. Playing hard on defense, laying some big hits, some big interceptions, playing fast, playing clean. Jared Goff looked good. They just dominated a really good Arizona team. I think that's kind of like Lions football in the future. That's what you want them to look like. And we saw that yesterday. Is that sustainable under Dan Campbell? I don't know. That's the question that needs to be answered.
I don't think it is. And look, I mean, I was digging around, Ryan, and we could have done a graphic on this, but I didn't think it was compelling enough. But just fact check me, anyone out there, because the facts are there. Jim Schwartz had wins like this where people were talking about, oh my God, this is the turning point for the Lions. Jim Caldwell, his first season, went swimmingly, famously, kind of got a little stagnant. Then he had a big win in like week 9 against Cleveland or Cincinnati or something in year 3. Everyone was like, okay, the Lions are back on board now and everything's going great again. We've seen this happen before where, okay, that was a big win. Even Matt Patricia, the specific example, when he beat Bill Belichick on Sunday Night Football at Ford Field, Patriots were like a 2-touchdown favorite, and dominated Tom Brady, shocked everybody, not just that they won, but how thoroughly they dominated the Patriots, the Patriots team that played in the Super Bowl later that year. I've seen this movie before where we have a mountain of evidence that this isn't going to work. And, Patricia, mountain of evidence it wouldn't work. Oh, that win over New England was so fun. Oh, this win over Arizona was so fun. That's a good team, a potential Super Bowl team, and you dominated them. I wouldn't say I don't put anything into it. I put very little into it. I have to see it on some sustained level. That was an effort we haven't seen all year. They've played hard. They haven't played hard and well really all year. I don't buy it. You seem more neutral. If I had to pin you down, are you a Dan Campbell guy? Do you buy this working? Because I just don't. I think he's the wrong guy.
I think he's a guy that obviously Dwayne Casey has had more success in his coaching career. That goes without saying. But I think Casey is kind of like a bridge the gap coach where he's at in his career, retiring in a couple years, I would think. Dan Campbell's that guy too. They're bridging the gap when they're ready to be like, if that day ever were to come, that the Lions were going to be playoff/Super Bowl contenders, I can't see Dan Campbell being the head coach. I think for this roster and this team, and they want to get another high draft pick, I think he's where they want. He's the guy they want there. I mean, they gave him, I think, was it a 6-year deal, which is completely mind blowing that they gave this first time head coach a 6-year deal, or in essence, a first time head coach. But I don't think he's the guy going forward.
It's so incredible that they needed to give him 6 years.
Yeah, like,
based on
give me a 3-year deal, right? No leverage.
Nobody else even called to interview him. I mean, this isn't like
that was Lions management at its finest. I should say Lions ownership.
Valenti was on the air, all offseason saying about that 6-year deal. Oh, well, they had to because no one will come here. I'm sorry. If Sheila Ford Hamp had told Dan Campbell's agent, look, I'll give you 4 years to be the head coach right now. Right. I'm not doing 6. He would have taken that. And if he wouldn't, he's an insane person because no one else was even calling him. So, again, I think the Fords are just reprehensible owners. are you into the Lions, the curse of Bobby Lane, Detroit versus everybody crap? Because I think they wear their own anchor. I think they own their own baggage, or they should.
I think that's fair to say. I mean, maybe there is something to the Bobby Lane thing. I think it's more a William Clay Ford thing. Ever since he bought the team, they've not done anything. I think it's that more the family. Maybe once they sell the team, the curse will finally be lifted. But yeah, dude. I mean, you got when the team is so bad, you have to have some straws to grasp at. You know what I mean? So I think that's what a lot of that is with the fan base. I mean, look, dude, you're a Lions fan. I'm a Lions fan. I've seen them win one playoff game in my lifetime. And I remember I was a freshman in high school when they beat the Cowboys. And to think they were one game away from the Super Bowl back then is still mind-blowing when you've seen all the futility from Lions football ever since. And I remember thinking, I'm like, this could be like the team of the 90s. Like this team is set up to succeed. And I think they made the playoffs 3 more times after that and never won another game. And with Barry, I mean, in that deck. But yeah, I mean, it's a revolving door of crap, is what it is. And the fans buy in every year, and that's just the way it goes.
I've had some heated arguments on the show, right? These people buy this stuff. Like Sam Day, a buddy of mine, Woodward Sports.
Because they want anything to feel hopeful about. Because it's been so bad for so long that they need any ounce of hope to get them excited, and that's what you see. Because it's been so bad here it's delusional, but it's been so bad for so long. And, maybe now the Fords are starting to wake up a little bit because now you're starting to see people not show up. I think they said it was like 42,000 there yesterday. And that was probably being generous based on the pictures that I saw. I mean, the place is half full. I went to the game when they lost to the Eagles. I took my nephews there, and it was maybe a third full, if that. I mean, it was embarrassingly bad. And people have always said, like, will the Fords finally make some changes? Will something happen once people start not showing or stop showing up? And I think maybe we're starting to see that a little bit. I don't know what's going to happen following that, but it is interesting to see a lot of the apathy now amongst the fan base that you're not seeing people show up on Sundays to watch that team. Although I would have liked to have been there yesterday. That would have been great.
It would have been fun.
It would have been fun to be there.
2 points about what you just said. First of all, nobody could show up. The TV deal is so lucrative that the team would be a lucrative.
No, but it's not a good look, especially in the NFL when you don't have full stadiums. I mean,
Granted.
It was embarrassingly bad the last few weeks.
Yes, I agree. But secondary to that, and piggybacking off what you just said, even if they are humiliated to the point where, look, we got to do something, this family, this bloodline, is not capable. This isn't a lack of wanting to do something. I'm sure they would prefer to win. They don't know how to win. They can build a winning football team like I can give birth. I mean, it's not biologically possible. They can't. So the whole, stop going to the games, that'll force, like, unless it forces them to sell, which I don't think they'll do for a state
I don't think they will either.
We're stuck. And look, you said it, we're Lions fans. I am. People think I hate them. Like I love them and hate them. They've tortured me. You're older than me. They've tortured you longer than they've tortured me.
Sad but true.
It's just, I can't. We've gotten so little. People make fun of the Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, the Bungles. Marvin Lewis won the division 4 or 5 times? Yeah. I mean.
Well, and I'll even make another point. Working in New York, the Giants and Jets, ever since I got there, outside of my first year in 2016 when the boat picture happened, the Giants got blown out in Green Bay, and they've had losing seasons ever since. I have nothing but people at work complain to me about the Jets and Giants. And I say, you know who you're going to get no sympathy from? Me. I said, you try being a Lions fan and then come talk.
Seriously?
1 playoff win since 1957. So it's next level futility with that organization. So it's just, I have to put things in perspective, because at least the Jets had made a couple of AFC championships with Rex and Sanchez, late 2000s. Giants, obviously, 4 Super Bowls. So they've tasted success where Lions fans have not.
I always laugh when Mike Valeni will declare himself Giants free on the air and stuff. And I mean, they've been bad for a while now, but they won probably the most rewarding professional sports title in the history of pro sports in 2007. I mean, maybe if you want to say the 2004 Red Sox, like beating an 18-0 Patriots team in that game, like derailing a team from Boston's perfect season, the best quarterback of all time. It's right up there with the 04 Red Sox. It's the greatest pro sports team title ever. And in 09, Valenti was on the air in 97-1 saying he's Giants free and he doesn't want to talk about them. It's so funny because, look, it's our fault. Like it's our collective, shit. I don't think people should lower their standards to make us feel better about ourselves. But it is so funny that I think if anything, the Lions fans don't get enough, whether you call it sympathy or acknowledgement of how pitiful it is. Because people make fun of, like, the Jets are the butt of jokes. Like the Jets, I've seen the Jets be on the doorstep of 2 Super Bowls in the last decade with Sanchez and Rex Ryan. I mean, they made it to back-to-back AFC title games.
That they did.
More than I've ever seen. I mean, I think the Lions have it particularly bad. And let's talk about someone who has it particularly good, I would argue. Transition to this. Mel Tucker in Michigan State.
I was wondering when you were going to get there.
I wanted to touch on it a little bit. I
would hope so.
Great year 2 for Mel Tucker. I don't care what anybody says. Not good. Great year. I was so impressed with what they did. Obviously, the Kenneth Walker season was unbelievable. The one thing I've heard that, look, I don't care. I'm all in with this program, with this coaching staff, everything they're doing. I don't have apprehension. But the one thing I've heard from Spartan fans that are not Spartan haters, that are alums that love the school and want them to do well, there's some concern. Kenneth Walker was so transcendent. I have argued best player in my lifetime, arguably the best Michigan State football player in 50 years since Bubba Smith left in the 60s. He was so good. He was worth 4 or 5 wins. This was really a 5 or 6 win team without him. And now he's gone. You're not going to replace him. You're not going to find the next best player in the last 50 years, presumably. Yeah, tall order. Is it a little bit of fool's gold to you? I don't think it is. But is this program in a good trajectory? Even if they win 8 games next year, it slides back a little bit.
I mean, what was the over-under, 4.5 this year?
4.5. It closed at 5 right at the end. So you don't buy this Kenneth Walker was sort of a cover for the
I think you just
mirage.
have to look at the recruiting. I mean, would they have a top 20 class or 21, whatever?
It's going to land right in there. Yeah, there's still pieces filling in.
Still pieces filling in. Great portal additions again with Berger, the kid from UNLV.
Windman, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they did nice in the portal again. They got a couple other kids in there as well. And that's what Tucker, that's his bread and butter. He's going to recruit for you. I don't know how many top 20 classes D'Antonio had, but I know it wasn't many.
Well, the one
we know the one that was really bad in 16, but
they were
they were 15
or
or 16, whatever it was. But he did not have that many top 20 classes. So Tucker's already come in year 2 and delivered that. And I just like his demeanor. I like his approach. I like his attitude. I like how he's modernized the program with the social media and the way they recruit and everything. That would not have happened under D'Antonio, who is one of, if not the greatest coach in Michigan State history. But that was not going to happen on his watch. So I think Tucker came along at the perfect time. And I think this is a team that will be a program that will be reckoned with going forward. They're not going to, win the national championship next season. But I do think with the expanded playoffs, going hopefully to 12 teams, that, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could be a perennial playoff contender to finish in the top 12 teams in the country. I could certainly see that happening. So as a Michigan State alum, I like that Ishbia, and I forget the other donor's name who wrote the check.
St. Andre.
Thank you, St. Andre, who, was basically like, how much is it going to take to keep you here? Write the check and let's just get it done. I thought they had to do it. And then it's funny how the college football landscape, after he signed that deal, just like turned upside down.
He flicked the dominoes.
Yeah, like everything changed. And I think if you're a Michigan State fan, you have to love where this team is at. And now he's locked in longevity-wise. There's stability. There's a lot to be excited about, dude. There really is. And Walker had an incredible season. It sucks that he's not going to be there in the Peach Bowl, although I'd trade him for Pickett any day, meaning like I'll happily take Walker out if Pickett's going to be out as well. I certainly think that helps Michigan State. So I think, like I said, there's a lot to be thrilled about if you're a Michigan State fan going forward.
I can't blame Pickett for sitting out. Some people
neither can I. But I mean, with our secondary and everything else, I mean that's a nice win for Michigan State that Pickett is sitting out. Like if you're going to make that trade, Walker for Pickett.
I see what you're saying. I think Pickett was actually terrified he was going to throw 7 interceptions.
I'm sure
against our
against the
fantastic
friendly
secondary.
skies.
It's our incredible.
Instead of the no-fly zone, I think it was Fowler who said that in the Ohio State game. It was the no-fly zone. Now it's fly the friendly skies.
Yeah,
basically
it's the friendly skies. And it's funny because it's like they were already bad, and then like 2 guys left the program.
Yeah, and then you got guys getting hurt. It was bad.
They're going to be calling
really
you and
bad.
I up to see if we have any eligibility left. Like we're going to be.
You may actually.
Yeah,
You may
yeah. Believe me, I have all 4 years of my NCAA eligibility intact. I don't know. So you obviously don't buy the negativity around the deal. There's a very
Who's negative about the deal?
Mitch Albom. Mitch Albom came down.
Yeah, but that was just more about, like first-year coach and kind of like giving so much, spending so much of, but it wasn't even the university's money. I just think it was more like the principle of the thing, like giving that much money to a football
Well, maybe
coach.
in general, Mitch's point was a little different, though. Mitch came down. He rode down on his cloud from the heavenly skies, and, he just was able to galvanize us with his heavenly takes on sports. There's things that there's no way he watched one game all year. His issue was the billionaires are going to be running the shop now. That it's going to be the second quarter. Second quarter ends and going into halftime.
I read the article, and so what?
It's not going to happen anyway, though. You think Matt Ishbia is going to pick up his cell phone on his treadmill in his mansion in Beverly Hills and say, Mel, you can't run that jet sweep anymore, bro?
No, I don't think it's going to happen
happen
like that. I don't think it's going to happen like that.
That's what Mitch implied. Like that these guys are going to be dictating schematics. It's like Mitch doesn't know what he's talking about. Sorry.
I hope the Matt Ishbias of the world can help out with the NIL deals, and he's already given them a monthly stipend.
Yeah.
And if that can help with recruiting, then I'm all about the billionaires having a say in this. You know what I mean?
Please say all you want.
Say all you want.
Yeah. I
don't think they should be calling the plays, but
no.
But if you can use your money as a positive influence for these kids within the rules, which are now changing, I don't think I have any problem with that.
All aboard. I think you and I are in the majority. There's some fuddy-duddies even in the Michigan State fan base. I can't remember who was tweeting me the other day. It's a guy, he's like a fringe media guy in Detroit, was saying this money should be going to science buildings and shit like that. It's like, I'm so tired of that debate.
But it's not the university's money. It's the donors' money, so who cares?
Yeah. Hey, why are you so concerned? Matt Ishbia has got a rounding error that's going to, on his budget sheet, it's going to get Mel Tucker to stay here. I'm like, won't somebody please think of the children? Like, just so tired of it. Like, can we just have fun with sports? Spend the money.
I think you should worry less about what those people say, because those people are in the minority, and you shouldn't let them get under your skin.
Thank you. I need this therapy.
Yes.
See, this is why you're here. I'm such a
you should not
guy.
let those people get under your skin.
I'm a high-strung guy.
I can see that. I can see that.
But, I care, man, and I'm tired. I don't want anybody. I mean, the Michigan stuff you're going to expect. I hate when it comes from inside our walls. I don't like seeing Spartans cast that out there. It's the minority, though. It's like less than 5%. All right, so we'll wrap there other than our world-famous speed round. I told you I wouldn't keep you too long because I know you're here, 5 nights, 6 nights, we said?
7 nights.
7 nights still.
Yeah, Sunday, 7 nights.
I'm bad at math. You're giving me 16%
This is day 2. Yeah, I'm here on day 2.
Yeah, you're in high
Top
demand.
priority.
You're in high demand when
you
come
called
to
me
town.
out on Twitter when I was at the Pistons game yesterday.
It worked on John U. Bacon.
And it worked on me, too. I'm here, aren't I?
I'm 2 for 2 shaming people. I got to just start being a dick to everybody.
Me and John U. Yeah.
You and John U.
Yeah.
Hella tight. Yeah,
the point is I'm here.
Yeah, you are here. You got here just for Jared, the colossal Chaldean. All right, so let's get to the speed round.
Speed round, fire away.
I'm going to have some fun with this one. So you are fresh-ish off your flight from, let's just say, LaGuardia. I don't know if you were Kennedy or LaGuardia.
Newark, but close.
It's the same difference.
Yeah.
We
got 3 airports there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful town.
No question.
Living in New York City, I have said forever, top 5 city to visit, bottom 5 city I'd want to live in. It's like I love New York. Don't get me wrong. It's, again, top 5 place to visit. After the 3rd, 4th, 5th day, I'm like, I got to get, it's like too congested. It's almost like a claustrophobia thing that I only get there. I don't have anywhere else. I lived in Chicago 4 years, didn't get it there. What's your take on living in New York City? You're a Troy, Michigan, Oakland County suburbs boy at heart.
Very similar to Manhattan, Troy, Michigan.
Yeah, right. They get mistaken for each other in pictures all the time.
Yes.
Living in New York City, you've been there a half a decade or so now.
Yeah, 5+ years, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. When they say New York Minute, there's a lot of truth to that.
Tell me
because
about it.
the time flies. The days feel like weeks. The weeks turn into months. The months turn into years. And I have a lot of friends, and you made this point to me before the show. Like, you come for 3 or 4 days. It's almost like going to Vegas, and you're like, okay, I've had enough. And a lot of people are like, to me, my friends, how do you live here, dude? Like, how do you get it? It's tough, man. I mean, it is nonstop energy. It is nonstop sensory overload 24/7. I've gotten somewhat numb to it 5 years later, but you're still not walking down the street and not being annoyed by the sirens and the taxi cab horns and all that stuff. I mean, it's you never really, you somewhat get used to it, but you don't really get so comfortable with it that you're cool with it, I guess is the best way to put it. But dude, there's no place like it. It is a special place. It has not been fun during COVID, I can tell you that. Between the lockdowns and all this other nonsense, I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going down. So that part has certainly taken away a lot of the fun from living in New York. Crazy to think we're almost 2 years into this pandemic already. But yeah, I mean, would I trade it for anything? Absolutely not. It's been a wild 5 years in a lot of different ways. We just got to get you out there next time, bro. We'll get you out to the Garden, get you to a Pistons-Knicks game.
I'd love to.
Yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah, I told you I've been to New York 10 times. I mean, I've been to Yankee games many times. I'm a huge theater dork, so I've done the Broadway thing many times. Told you one of my best friends is a director out there. It's just somehow I've never gotten to the Garden. My big thing with New York, other than the congestion and the noise, is they planned the disposal of garbage like last when they built the city. So they didn't really have a plan.
You don't like it all over on the streets
they just
in the middle of summertime.
It's like you're walking around, and I'm usually there in the summer, like seeing a Tiger game or whatever. And it just like goes right into the nostrils.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
Just bags of garbage on the sidewalk.
They don't have any place to put it. It's put it in the alley.
Until
What
the
alley?
garbage trucks come along, and
That's rough.
they don't come till at night. So it's sitting out there all day.
Not a fan. But in New York City, I'm a fan. The trash thing, not a fan. Transition to this next one. The Palace of Auburn Hills versus where you were last night, Little Caesars Arena. Now, you spent a lot of time at the Palace. You worked there many years. I think the Palace was prematurely closed. It was a beautiful venue.
No question, especially after Gore spent all that money on the renovations.
Yeah, chairs, new scoreboard. It's 2 miles from our studio right now. It broke my heart when they closed.
No question.
I know you spent more time at the former than the latter, but you've seen both. What's your take on sort of which one's better, if you had to say?
Well, I mean, that's, as a kid who grew up going to games at the Palace, I do like the modern feel of Little Caesars Arena. I like how the stands are kind of built up because it's more like a hockey arena, right? So like the fans are a little bit more on top of the action. Where at the Palace, it was a little bit more spread out this way. So I do like kind of the layout of the stands being more on top of the court. Obviously, the facility is beautiful. The thing I don't like is trying to park there. I mean, we were in the line for the parking structure like 45 minutes
in the
last
district,
night.
Detroit?
Yes, in the district.
That's the one thing.
It was. I don't know what happened last night, dude, but the place was packed for a Pistons Heat game. A Pistons team on a 14-game losing streak. It was packed in there last night, and just the whole setup of trying to park. And I said that to my dad. I said, man, I miss the Palace. You got the one big parking lot there, and they just had that thing down to a science, just waving people through and taking the money. But yeah, dude, when that place got torn down, I certainly shed a tear because there was a lot of great memories in that building.
It was shut down way too soon. That place, as well as it was maintained, had 20 years.
But look, you have to understand what Gorse was thinking. That downtown was starting to flourish. It was booming a little bit. And you're moving into a new arena at half the price because the Red Wings are splitting the bill with you. So
yeah, but I live here, man. What about me?
Well, right. Well, he wasn't really thinking about you. And I know a lot of the Oakland County people were not happy that they moved downtown. But
you said it about the parking, man. That's what I loved about the Palace.
Yeah,
There's no anxiety. Yes. Oh, I gotta find a lot.
Nope. Yep. Anxiety. There's no anxiety
the
there. Yeah, you got everybody parks right around there. I mean, just that arena was so ahead of its time when it was built in 1988, and it was still consistently voted one of the top 5 arenas in the NBA. Or in sports, even before, right when it was about to get torn down, it was still considered one of the top 5-10 venues in the country. So a sad day indeed when it was laid to rest.
Yes, I like both places. It's not an anti-LCA take, but the Palace, I wish they could both exist. Okay, Ryan Fields, Michigan State Bar. Now,
Rick's,
is it?
I'll cut you off before you even get
there. Yeah, why do you like Rick's?
Monday night was the place to be. Rick's was always the spot.
Oh,
it was just something about being down in the basement. You felt like you were in like a basement, and God, what's a famous street up there? I can't even think now. Grove Street, maybe.
Oh, Grove.
Yeah, you're like a house party down in the basement with a keg in the corner.
Yeah,
you kind of had that college bar feel when you're down in the basement at Rick's. We had a lot of good times there, man. We had a lot of good time.
I haven't been to Rick's in a while. And I don't think I'll ever go back. It'd be weird. I was in East Lansing for Michigan State this year, my buddy James, and we were at the Graduate Hotel right across the street from Rick's.
Which I heard is nice, by the way.
Oh, it's spectacular. Yeah, it was awesome. And I made a joke. I was like, "Oh, look at the line for Rick's." Like which it was. It was like around the block, like it always was. That much hasn't changed. And he was like, "Dude, we are 100% not going to Rick's." I will feel like a pedophile like at this point going to Rick's. We could go to other college bars, but there's something about Rick's where it's like your first 5 years out of school, I think you can go. I'm now 10 years after.
Well, you were asking about my favorite college bar while I was in school.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
No, you answered fine. I'm just talking about Rick's. Like, I couldn't go back there.
No, of course
But
not.
even when I was there, not my cup of tea. Can I get a door on the bathroom stall, please?
Nope. That was part of the charm, bud. You just got to go in there and roll the dice. No privacy. That's just
first
how
of all,
it
I don't know
goes.
who's doing that business at Rick's, but in principle, I just want a door there. Like, I want a door. It's weird to not have a door on a stall, but yeah, Rick's. I don't know if they've ever cleaned that floor. I think.
No.
I thought,
Again, part of the charm of that place.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know. I was more of a post guy. That they tore that down though. Everything's gone. I mean, I was there more recently than you as a student.
Yeah.
When I went up there in October, I didn't know where I was. The town looks completely different.
Yeah.
Have you been back there?
I was just
recently?
there for the Michigan State.
So you were up there too.
Yeah, I waved at you when you walked by me. You just totally ignored me.
That didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's another
That's
time.
why that's why I didn't almost come on the podcast.
It's another time. Another time you were in town. I didn't know anything about it. So yeah,
You didn't get my text?
I don't remember. I don't know, dude. I was a mess that weekend in a good and bad way. I was racked with anxiety, as you might imagine.
No question, we all were.
And the whole
I was
game,
nervous as hell going in.
I didn't enjoy that game. At no point in that game was I having fun until the very
Brantley's interception.
Yeah.
Then I was having all kind of fun.
You know, my wife's like, "Oh yeah, my husband's a huge sports fan." I'm like, I don't really like this stuff. It's just like, there's nothing about that was enjoyable until the very end. All right, moving on. So.
I thought this was the speed round, by the way.
You want to pull up the Justin Rogers episode from the Detroit News?
I thought this was the speed round.
It's like
what
a 2-hour speed round. The speed round's notoriously slow.
Okay?
We got a lot to say.
Sure.
I'm very type A. And you know, it's not so often I get to bump elbows with a celebrity of your stature. Speaking of which, I'm sure you've talked to young kids here and there about trying to make it in the business, and you're giving advice to people.
Of course.
You're talking to a Michigan State J school guy, or he's a BCA, whatever. He's going into this field. What's your one piece of advice for someone who's just getting started, fresh out of college or about to graduate? What do you tell someone?
Show up and be nice.
That's simple.
Your two best abilities are your availability and your likability. That's it.
I don't know. I can't speak for your attendance, but I know everybody likes you, so you got half of that right. If your attendance is
your
good,
likability and your availability.
Yeah,
you show up
good.
and you be nice. That's first and foremost. Secondly, you get internship, because that's where you rub elbows with professionals. You can learn things in a classroom, but it pales in comparison to what you learn doing it hands-on, if you will, in the field. I got hired out of my internship, which was given to me or helped out by L.A. Dickerson, who helped facilitate me getting an internship at Fox in Lansing, which they ended up hiring me. I was the weekend sports anchor my senior year at Michigan State. I was the weekend sports anchor at Fox. They hired me right out of my internship, and a lot of great things can happen like that. And, after that, it's networking, and it's so much easier nowadays with social media, which didn't exist when I was in school. Hell, computers barely existed when I was in school. It was a long time ago. So I think those are probably the three big things to make it in this business.
Those are all good. Rock solid. Moving on. I had to do it, man. I'm sorry. I don't know if you've done an interview without this coming up. Got to ask about the prices right.
Let me tell you something. I could say on this podcast right now that I had dinner in the Oval Office with the president. Just him and I talking about national security, whatever else you want to talk. People would be like, that's cool. You tell someone you were in the Showcase Showdown on The Price is Right with Bob Barker, they're like,
oh, I know.
What happened? They want to know all the details.
That's why I'm asking. You could have had that.
We'll be here all night telling that story.
You have to tell me the whole story, but just...
I'll give you the Cliff Notes. I lied. I said I was a Michigan State student.
Oh, here we go. I guess we're playing it here.
Oh, here we go. I mean, the best part there he is. A few pounds, Heavier, a little feathered hair.
You somehow look older there.
Yeah, no question. The T-shirt was tucked into the carpenter jeans, which was a great look with the black belt.
I love the Michigan State shirt.
Oh, yeah. I think that was a Jansport, if I'm not mistaken.
Stephen Barry's rocking.
Yeah, Stephen Barry's.
Yeah.
So I lied and said I was a Michigan State student. I was already a year and a half removed from Michigan State. Little white lie, but it got me on the prices right.
Did you think it was more appealing to have a student there?
Yeah, because I was talking to my friend who was a producer in LA for a different show, and she's like, they love college kids.
Gotcha.
So go ahead and pretend that you're a college kid. I said, I could play a college kid.
You could
despite the feathered hair.
one now, asshole.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
Grad student, maybe.
Yeah. Right.
So I got on the show, and they interview you beforehand. They're like, Justin, tell me something about yourself, and you got 10 seconds to sell yourself. And I said, I'm Ryan. I'm a student at Michigan State. I flew all the way in from East Lansing so I could spin the big wheel. And I see the producers make a little note. But you don't know. They know they're going to pick you, but you don't know you're going to get picked. And as you just saw in the clip, I was one of the first 4 people called down to start the show. And if we watch the rest of the clip, I bid on 4 mountain bikes. 1, shake Bob's hand, like, holy hell, this is happening. I play a game called Pushover, win a trip to Barcelona. So within 5 minutes, I've won 4 mountain bikes and a trip to Barcelona, shook Bob's hand. I'm immediately backstage filling out tax paperwork, which they give you the right to refuse the prizes if you don't want to pay the taxes on them, because you have to pay California taxes. So I kept the mountain bikes, which we sold 3 of them. My mom still has the last remaining Price is Right bike in our garage in Rochester. So I go to this show, the wheel, roll a 65 after the first person went over, stayed at 65. Next person went over. I'm in the showcase. I overbid on the showcase, which anybody that's watched that clip now, which is 20 years old, I mean, that was a once in a lifetime opportunity that I choked on big time.
You're what, 3,000 or 4,000 off?
3,000 over. Yeah. I was 3,000 over. And you know why they got me? Because the Dodge Ram pickup truck that I bid on, when I rewatched it, was a 4x2. It was not even a 4x4 pickup truck.
Yeah.
They got me on a technicality, which if you've ever shopped for a pickup truck,
I mean, I drive a Ram right now.
There's a several $1,000 difference between a 4x2 and a 4x4. But I wasn't listening. I got Bob Barker sitting right next to me. I got models in bikinis right here. I'm not listening to Rod Roddy describe the prizes. And so they got me on a technicality. But the story takes a crazy twist because several months later, the travel agent calls me and says, when do you want to go to Barcelona? I picked this week in September. And I take my friend Laura, who I went to visit. Her and I go to Barcelona. They put us up at the Ritz-Carlton. Price is Right. Not bad. Thanks, Bob Barker. Appreciate you hooking a guy up. We party in Barcelona all week. We are flying home into New York City on the morning of September 11th, 2000.
No shit.
That is a 100%.
I have never heard that part of the story.
That is a 1,000% true story.
Oh, man.
And if you've been to New York and you've seen the Broadway show Come From Away, I am one of the Come From Away people. Because I got diverted to Newfoundland, where I was stuck there. Guess how many days I spent in Newfoundland?
10.
6 days.
Still a lot.
Couldn't take any luggage off the plane. We sat on the tarmac for 14 and a half hours after we got diverted to Newfoundland. God. 14 and a half hours after it was an 8.5 hour flight to get there. And I slept not on this carpet because this is plush. I slept on an office floor in a convention center for 6 days before I was back on a plane out of Newfoundland.
And that was like pre-iPhone. So how are you catching up on the news
So
and stuff?
they had CNN playing in like the command center where we were at. So we would just spend all of our day watching CNN, waiting to see when the airports were going to open because the airports were closed for 3 days after that. And we were just wondering when we were going to get home. And it was the most remarkable story, and it's all because of the Price is Right.
Bob Barker, Bob Barker, take it
So
away.
I literally went, Price is Right, 9/11. I went from sleeping at the Ritz-Carlton to sleeping on the floor of an office building / convention center in St. John's, Newfoundland, population of about 5,000 people.
Doesn't the show just end when your segment when you overbid? The show's over.
The show's over. But that was just part of this. Little did we know what would happen next.
That's down the road, but I'm talking the immediate aftermath. I mean, they're all like, they're in the bikinis and they're waiting.
And the other guy overbid too. Was a double loser.
Yeah, I know. You just had to not go over.
Yeah, right. And I would have won.
What's like the 30 seconds after they cut the camera? Is it?
Yeah, everybody just clears off the set. I mean, I shook Bob's hand, and that was that. Here's the even crazier part of the story. My mom was on the show in 1979.
No shit.
She won a washer and dryer and a fur coat. And she was in the same spot on contestants row that I was, as you saw in that clip. I was on the 4th spot, the far left. That's where my mom was as well in 1979. But she got to the wheel and she lost a spinoff on the second tie, like the second tiebreaker. So she lost on the wheel. I made it to the showcase overbid. So one day when I have a child in the next 30 years, if the show is still going on, their job is to then finish the Field family tradition of actually winning the showcase on The Price is Right.
It's like a relay race. You're passing the torch.
Passing the baton, right. On to the next. Right.
Yeah, you were on the real one with Bob Barker.
I was on, Rod Roddy. It was the OGs. It was very cool. So it was 20 years ago. It was January 2001. And when I was on the show afterwards, nobody believed me that I was on it because the show doesn't air for another month after they tape it. And I said, no, I swear I won I was up on the showcase. I won a trip to Barcelona. Yeah, whatever. Like none of your buddies believed you. No. And then it finally aired. And it was a huge deal. And then the whole 9/11 story, which there's so many details to that story. I could talk to you about that. That's a podcast in and of itself. But just a crazy time for our country and being so isolated, being up in St. John's, Newfoundland. And the fact they made a Broadway show about it, Come From Away, is pretty crazy.
That's wild. Yeah,
crazy
I never knew. I've heard the Price is Right story. I've seen the clip like 100 times. I never knew.
That's the second half of the
back
story.
half of that,
Yes,
which is just
that's
wild.
The second half.
That's bizarre. It's just, life is weird, man. I'm telling you. We'll finish here. Best sports broadcaster working today. Now, we all know it's Colin Cowherd, but him aside, who's the best?
Your idol, whose picture just happens to be right here on the desk.
There's a commissioned painting of him on the wall.
I saw that as well.
I mean, it's all Spartan stuff, and people are
and
like,
then Colin Cowherd. I met Colin when I was working at FS1. He started there when I was there. Great dude.
Yeah,
love his style.
Great guy.
Knows his stuff. Everything you want in a guy who's in that position. I love Joe Buck, and I know people hate on Joe Buck.
No,
I love Joe Buck's personality. I love his snark. I love the way he calls a game. When you hear his voice, you know it's a big game. And there's not many guys in today's day and age that you can say that
That's
about.
Al Mike.
Al Michaels is another one. I didn't say he was the only one voice from God who just came from above.
That's Oz. That's the great and powerful Oz.
The great and powerful Oz. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
That's right.
Or behind the door over there. I think Joe Buck is one of the best to ever do it, and I know people give him a lot of crap, but I think he's absolutely tremendous.
You cannot blow the David Tyree helmet catch and never be on this list. You're ineligible.
Look, dude, he had a bad call. It happens. I've had bad moments myself.
That was Captain Smith saying, "Let's pick up more speed on the Titanic level."
Look, it happens, bud. It happens.
It happens in the second quarter of Week 9 against the Cardinals.
But
in the game against
at the end of the day, when you're talking about some of the best or one of the best broadcasters in the game right now, it's him.
He's got a great voice, and this is your round, not mine.
Okay, great.
But
I was going to say, am I the guest or are you the guest?
I'll
give me the questions. I'll ask them.
Well, that was the last one. I mean, we all know Colin Cowherd's the right answer, but it's like you almost have to take him off.
Well, who would be your answer after Colin?
Oh, I mean, it's such a cavernous gap from 1 to 2. I
mean,
obviously. It's Al Michaels. I mean, Al Michaels.
Al's great.
I think Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth are the best pair of broadcasters that I've ever seen or heard. Those guys, and look, the people that don't like Collinsworth, I don't understand it. The criticism of him is that, he goes off on, some tangents sometimes, which I don't even agree with. I don't even know what people are talking about. That's more of like a Phil Simms thing, to be honest. But I hate the wooden broadcasters that are just, I'm not going to name names. I don't want to shit on anybody, but they're out there. There's a lot of them that are just, they don't do a bad job. They do a good job.
Sure.
But there's no color or character to them. They're kind of like a paint by number broadcaster. Collinsworth will be like, I got to be honest, Al, I don't know what he's thinking there. Like that to me, he's the best.
Yeah,
the best.
I love Collinsworth.
Color guy.
Yeah.
But
no question.
There's a lot of good ones out there, though, I got to say. I mean, Cowherd being number one, but Michaels is fantastic.
Legend.
He's like 100 years old.
Legend.
He's still awesome.
I love Gus Johnson. I love Mike Breen on the NBA.
Gus.
Gus has his moments where you're like, what did he say?
Yeah.
But when you're watching a game, you want to be entertained. And the guy's entertaining. And nobody can argue with that.
Were you a Marv Albert guy?
I love Marv Albert.
I liked Marv.
I love Marv Albert. Yeah. I love, I think Kevin Harlan calls a great game in the NBA.
I'm with you.
I love, who's the guy for CBS? It's college football.
Don't say Packer.
No, not Packer. No.
Oh, you said football.
shoot.
He's basketball.
Football,
anyway.
college football. ABC, not CBS. He called the Herb Haygood catch. Who was that? Haygood against Notre Dame.
It wasn't Saunders.
No.
It's white guy or black
White
guy?
guy. Yeah. He still calls games. Brad Nessler.
Oh, Brad, yeah.
Nessler calls a good game.
He's fantastic.
He's great.
I'm with you. Yeah, I like most of them. They like the bigger guys.
He called also the Little Giants play. That was Brad
that's
Nessler.
Right. That's right. That's
the call of the year.
When I hear Haygood, all I can think of is
35-40, 45 minutes. Oh, he's gonna go.
Well, yeah, I just think of Brandstatter screaming, "Watch out, Haygood! Watch out!"
Yeah, right.
On the clock play. It's such a homer. But all right, man. Well, we'll get you out of here. I know you're in high demand.
Great times, brother. Glad we were able to do this finally.
Yeah, I don't know if I should be thanking the Colossal Chaldean, Jared, for
you should
coordinating this. I
give
think
him all the gratitude.
He's made a steal, intimidating guy to say no to. So it was awesome to have you. And seriously, you're in high demand, and I do appreciate you making some time.
Anytime, man. I had a lot of fun.
You're a distinguished alum for a reason, man. You're a pro. You're the best.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you to the great and powerful Oz on the other side of the, now it's like
the door.
A bookshelf.
Yeah.
The hidden door. Does a great job. Eric Williamson, who certainly is in his boxers on his couch by now, our set designer, graphic designer. Thank you to you guys. A lot more in the works. Ryan Field, straight from Newark Airport. Happy to have you for a few more days. And then
gonna be back to the Big Apple, bud.
Go green, man.
Go white.
We'll see you at Spiro Avenue. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.